Hello? Hey, there we go. Do I need to repeat any of that? I insulted Tony, so that was fun. Aw, I'll fill you in later. So, what we're going to be talking about today is the problem of suffering and why God allows it. How do we process this? Now, there's some of you guys in this room right now, you've been through some difficult times, and you don't know how to answer this. That's perfectly normal. It's intimidating. That's okay. There's other people in here that and you just don't know how to respond to that. And that's intimidating. And then you kind of just freeze up. So today, when you walk out of here, you're going to at least have a really solid idea. I'm giving you like a bird's eye view of this. Now, Tony told me I could keep this down to about an hour and a half and we'll be okay. So I think I can get through some stuff. But ultimately, this is a conversation. It's in the book of Job. Socrates talked about this 2,400 years ago. So this is an old conversation. This is a big conversation. And I'm just kind of giving you just enough to get you to wet your whistle, basically. And I'll front load you with some information here. So if you look on your notes, you can fill these out. There's probably some language on there that you're not going to understand. And I'm doing that on purpose. I'm throwing this out there for people that maybe want to go home and check this out for a little bit more information. You'll see words like deductive and inductive, and you have no idea what that means. I'm putting it on there so in case you do this and you see these words, you'll know that you're in the right spot. So like I said, this is a bigger conversation. So basically, Devin, when you go and look this up at home and you see inductive and deductive, you're in the right spot. So that being said, this is the actual argument right here. This is it in all its beautiful glory, and this is the number one argument used against Christianity. An all-loving, all-powerful God exists, and suffering exists. That's it. And people see these two things as contradicting one another. So, weird. So what I want to do is, I have a picture. This is normally how people kind of view this. But I got to be honest, like this is our typical Christian response in our Western cultures, is we like to kind of hit this a little bit. Oh, okay, you've got some suffering. Well, maybe Philippians 4:13, you can do it because God's going to give you strength. Or maybe some Joshua, that he has plans for you, plans to give you hope in the future. And we throw these things out there, but there's a bigger problem. Kids die of cancer. Parents have to watch their parents forget who they are as they face Alzheimer's. There's probably some people in this room that have had experiences when they were children as somebody stole something from them that you never get back. Why does God allow that? And I'm not talking about, oh, I got stopped at the red light for too long, or I just had a difficult day at work. I'm talking about the gut-wrenching, the real things, the things that impact us for decades. Why does he allow that? That's where this question really hits. And if I'm being honest, I think that we can do better. We can do better responses, us as Christians. I think we have the answers. We have some solid answers. So I first want to go to Matthew 22. There's a lot here. I want this to challenge us. This verse, specifically this verse or these two verses, there's been times where these have kept me up at night because of what they say. So, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the great and first commandment. So this is Jesus speaking. And I highlighted these. So you love the Lord with all your heart. I think we got that one pretty good. That's the emotional tie. We get that. All your soul. That might be a little trickier. That's your personality, your being, who you are. So who you are. Well, yeah, I want to love God with my hobbies, my talents, my personality. Yeah, I want to serve him that way. But it also says with your mind. And in our culture, that is we're very self-aware of who we are and our emotions. But God says that's not enough. That also, if we're going to really love God, we got to do it with our minds. So that means that we have to push ourselves mentally. So that means we can't just come and sit here and that's all we do. If that's all that we do to push our mind, we have got to love God. To fully love God means that we have to push ourselves to understand more. So this is just a challenge to let's push ourselves more, because if we're really asking these questions and we're trying to answer these questions, it's going to require a little bit more. And then in the same vein, 1 Peter 3:15, one of my favorite verses, but in your hearts honor Christ the Lord as holy, always being prepared to make a defense to anyone who asks you for a reason for the hope that is in you, yet do it with gentleness and respect. Now, here's the hang up. Everybody always sees the word always, and they get intimidated because, like, oh, I've got to always have an answer. And I don't know what to do with that because I don't always have an answer. Ignore always for right now. You don't see that for right now. What I want you to focus on is being prepared to make a defense to anyone who asks you for a reason for the hope that is in you. Here's why this is important. So if you can be prepared to make a defense for God, that means that God is able to be perceived, that you can understand God, that God is understandable. That's what I want you to get. You don't have to go to a seminary to understand all these great things. God can make himself known to you right now in the spot that you're at in life. That's what I want to get out of this, is don't get caught up in the always and, oh, I gotta memorize all these crazy things that I don't know. God is the God that is there. He's right here. That's the part I want you to focus on. So as we move forward, we're going to break this problem down, and I'm going to make it weird. I like making it weird. I'll give you a warning. There's a small, still voice in the back of my head that says, don't nerd out on them, because I really want to do that. It's not the Holy Spirit. It's my wife, Brandy. She's just warned me, don't do that. I really want to. So to break this problem down, it goes into two veins. Now, if you look on your notes, you'll see intellectual and emotional. So what I want you to do, I'm going to encourage you to make the most sense out of this. If you draw a bracket from intellectual down to emotional, that's how this thing breaks up. So it kind of helps you understand a little bit. So you've got the intellectual side and you've got the emotional side of this argument. And these are two completely different ways to answer this. So if you try to answer something emotional with an intellectual response, I know, how do I put this? Okay, guys, the gentlemen in this room, you guys will probably understand this the most, is if your girlfriend or your wife has ever come home and she's just unloaded on you, she has given you some problems that's really been bugging her, and then your instant reaction is to, oh, this is what you need to do. And then you would give the facts. And then a fight starts because you're not listening to me. Because you just answered something she was just unloading to get emotional support, and you're trying to fix it with intellectual facts. So this is the same way. So when somebody's coming to you, they're either coming from one side or the other, and how you answer it is really going to determine how well they receive it. And I'm going to give you the ugly part first. 99% of us are actually asking from emotional side, not intellectual. Now I'm going to give you the intellectual side. We're going to talk about it because it's important, because you're going to draw from it. But even as men, 99% of us, we're asking the emotional question. We can give all the facts, but ultimately, if you get that fact and it doesn't change how you feel about God, it's an emotional issue. It has nothing to do with the facts. So intellectual has to deal with facts, and then I'm going to skip around in the notes just to briefly. The emotional is about feelings. Okay, so you can just keep it here for, oh yeah, that's fine. Emotional is about feelings, so keep that in mind, two different spots. Now we're going to talk about the intellectual side a little bit, and I know it sounds kind of nerdy, but stick with me. I guarantee you're going to learn something. The emotional or the logical side can be broken down into two further sections, so it gets a little more complicated. This is why this argument is so weird and so tough to explain. You've got one side is the logical side, which the logical side is about certainty, about 100%, and then you've got the evidential side, which that's about possibilities. So in your notes, certainty and possibilities. So evidential is about possibilities. So the logical side will say it is 100% impossible that suffering exists and God, the all-powerful, all-loving God exists. 100% impossible. Now here's the easy way to beat this. Has anybody ever went through suffering and found something good out of it? Anybody in the room ever went through something and you're like, yeah, congratulations, you just defeated this side of it. Because what they're looking for is it's impossible that God exists in that, and then if he existed, there's no way that that suffering could be justified, that problem could be justified. It's uncalled for, it's over the top. But if you personally can say, yeah, it was a lot, but I found good in it, you just crush this. Pretty simple. Now, here's where that swings around and smacks us right in the face, and this is where Christianity, anybody really struggles with this. There is no worldview that can fully, 100% answer why there is suffering, just to throw that out there. Christianity can't. It's not in the Bible. You'll find things, but nobody can answer this question to the fullest, because a lot of times it's an emotional issue. That being said, Christianity has the most to offer. It has the most answers to it, and I think it has the most solid ground for this. And you'll understand this in a minute. So the evidential is all about possibilities. So what that means is they're looking at a million, let's say in this year there's been 1 million cases of bad, evil things that have happened. There's been 1 million things that have gone wrong this year. What somebody's going to question is, are you telling me that just one out of 1 million could not be unjustified, that it was over the top, that it was unnecessary? You're telling me that 1 out of 1 million, there's 1 in a 1 million chance that didn't happen? That's a pretty high, the chances are that, well, yeah, something did happen that we couldn't explain, because it's 1 in 1 million. The difficulty with this is that there are a lot of evils, a lot of wrongs, a lot of pains that were like, that was over the top, and I could see your point. So even looking at the Holocaust with Hitler, was that over the top? I could certainly see people saying that was too much. He didn't have to go that far. Or examples of rape. Why? So you telling me that one's called for, that a loving God would allow that? And so this is where this unfolds. This is where Christians get trapped, because we're saying that every suffering, every problem has a solution, and it has a reason for its happening. We don't know what it is, and so it sounds like a cop-out when we say, yeah, God allowed that to happen, but he has a different reason for it. Well, what is it? I don't know. That's where we get trapped. So it swings around. So as easily as we knocked out the logical one, be like, oh yeah, I've experienced good, so that one, it swings right around and does the same thing to us, and it smacks us. Now, if I haven't thoroughly confused you enough, here's where it swings around again and smacks the other person, which is fun. So these arguments, like I said, a lot of times they're the emotional side of things. What we need to do then is think about what the person is saying. So they made the argument, so they made the claim that there's no God. If they've made that claim, they have to prove it. The burden is on them to do it. So a lot of times they'll say, I don't believe there's a God, and then they want us to go with it. And we have to somehow do that. They made the claim, so they have to face it. So what that does is allow us, so don't try to answer it right away, like, oh, I'm going to prove you wrong. They have to prove to you that God does not exist. And the way that this swings around and smacks them again, there's many ways that we can do this. Well, how do you explain the concept of beauty? Are things beautiful just because? How do you explain morality? My favorite one is, how can you say that there is evil or that there's good without a God? If God doesn't exist, then why are you upset that something's evil? Or how can you say that something's good? There's no basis for it. There's no way to do it. My father-in-law has this corny saying. It's always stuck with me. If you take God out of good, there's not much left. It's just an O. It's the same kind of thing. I told you it was corny. So for an example, you're talking to somebody, start asking questions. That's the biggest. We're not here to win debates. We're not here to smash things at people's face. We're not here to just, I'm going to force you to believe in God, but I'm going to give you all these intellectual facts. Ask questions. What do you mean by this? How do you explain this? And so what you want to do is you want to put a stone in somebody's shoe. If anybody's ever you've walked around, you've gone jogging, or been on a job site, and you get a little rock or a little pebble in your boot, you notice it. You can ignore it for a little bit, but after a while it starts to gnaw at you and it makes you hobble. That's what your job is to do. You just have to put a stone in somebody's shoe because you want to poke at their worldview. You want to point out that, hey, not everything that you're saying, it's not all right. But you have to do this, once again, with the verse that talks, you got to do about with humility. You're not out here just to win an argument. So with that in mind, I'm going to give you 6 intellectual responses. These are the things that I've got a bunch of, this is if you want to take this home, and in your notes, it's got a bunch of different Bible sections in there. This is by far not the only verses that you can find. In fact, I kind of liken this to, for those old enough, if you played lawn darts with the actual metal tips. Anybody did that? So to find some of the verses that apply to these, it's kind of like closing your eyes and playing lawn darts, and you just chuck that out there and you just listen because you know you're going to hit something. You're going to have about the same amount of time finding some verses in there to do this. It'd be a really good Bible study to push your mind. If you want to love God with your mind, this is a good way to do this. So here's the first response. Punishment. It's the number one, punishment. So evil and suffering are viewed as consequences for sin. That seems like a pretty simple answer, right? This is probably the number one go-to answer not just to hand out to people, but what we think. So if you have ever struggled with how does God allow this? Well, I'm being punished for something I've done. And you take this weight upon you, and it hurts. So you got to be super careful because you will destroy people with this answer because if it's used incorrectly. Here's what people will hear when you say this. For those that can't read, it says, everything happens for a reason. Sometimes the reason is you're stupid and you make bad choices. This is what they're going to say, but that's 100% what they're going to hear. So use this one cautiously. It's true, but not as probably as true as people like to think. I look at some of the trouble. I can't imagine when I was going through all my sickness and stuff. If I would have, let's say, there was a time when I was working in Houston, and I was away from Brandy for like almost an entire year. Had I cheated on her and then got the cancer, I already had the cancer in Houston. I barely made it out of Houston with it. Had I done that and cheated on her, do you know what I would have thought that my cancer was the reason for my cancer? You see how dangerous that is? So we could put things on people that's not real. We mean well, but we don't want to destroy people. Number 2, kind of in the same vein, free will. People can make choices that lead to evil and suffering. We know this. I mean, this is a common sense one. We can make bad choices. Where some of this gets really tricky is 30, 40 years down the road, let's say, for those that have been through sexual abuse. You still carry those wounds. And it's easy to say, God doesn't love me. I'm a terrible person. I'm ugly. I'm not valuable. And you will assign all these things to this, but really, ultimately, it's because somebody did something terrible years ago. They used their free will to hurt you, and you're still feeling it. So it's hard to untangle. So there's a caution in this. Be willing that, yeah, we can do things right now. I mean, any parent, you'll know that, whoops, I screwed that kid up, but at least I got this other one. There's times when we mess up, but there's deeper consequences to it also. The third one, soul making. That sounds really weird. Soul making. So this is the character and spiritual growth that comes through hardship. So this is, if you've ever been through a hard time, you found something positive out of it, even though it's been hard, God is creating in you. He's allowed it to happen to shape you, to build you up, to make you stronger. That's what this is. Like I said, we're not going to spend a lot of time on these. You can study on your own for these if you want. Number 4, the heavenly response. Tanner just talked about this. Tanner just talked a lot about it going through Revelation. All wrongs are temporary, and God will make them right in eternity. This one's a powerful one. This one also can seem superficial because we're going to say, hey, that person, you're going through this right now. Well, it'll be fixed eventually in eternity, but it has a tendency to minimize people's feelings or their experiences. So you got to be careful with this. It is 100% true, and you want to encourage people, yeah, I know that that's wrong, and I grieve with you, and I feel for you, and I look for the day that God makes this right. So you go with that approach versus, yeah, that's a bummer, but God's going to fix it. And then they still have to face it. They're still going through it right now, so it can kind of just be a trap for them. So you use this one lovingly, and this is where you come alongside somebody and you walk through them through that situation. You just don't chuck this out there. Oh, God's going to fix it eventually. You walk through them, with them through life in that difficult moment, and you be there for them. Number 5 is redemptive suffering. That one sounds great. We unite our suffering with Christ to find spiritual growth and renewal, allowing us to show Jesus to others. So this is a lot like soul making, but in our situations, we can show Jesus to other people. So people look at our situation and be like, man, I don't know what's holding that person up. There's something different about them. So I won't mention Glenn's name, but I'll say Glenn's name. Glenn is a perfect example in our local body right here. You watch what he's going through. Teresa's been through it too, and Jay. You watch people, and you're like, how are they doing that right now? That's crazy. That's Jesus shining through. So that's redemptive suffering. So this is another answer to why there is evil, why God's allowing it. We don't know why people go through what they do, but in it, he's showing himself. Number 6, the incarnational. That sounds fancy. Incarnational. So this is Jesus putting on flesh. So Christ willingly took on suffering to deepen his identification with our suffering. This is Jesus showing himself to us. So where redemptive suffering is us showing Jesus to other people, this is Jesus showing directly to us himself. And we're going to talk about this one a little bit further, so it'll make a little bit more sense. Now, when we get through all these questions, so if you've addressed any of this, you've talked to somebody about this, and you've thrown any of these, now you could throw 4 of these out at somebody, you could throw one, it's going to be a combo, and no one person is going to have everything that works. It's just the way it is. It's perfectly fine. If all 6 apply, cool, that could happen. But there's something you need to ask yourself at the end of all of this to gauge where the person is, and it's this: do the facts solve your problem? Do the facts solve your problem? So if at any point you've given all these answers, and it makes perfect sense to you, I mean, you could see it as plain as day, but the other person, it's over their head, that means it's an emotional problem. That's why I say the facts, we got to learn this because you're going to pull from this stuff. And this can even apply to yourself. You could know all these things, but you still feel off. You still feel like you struggle with wanting more. You want to know some more. Or I know God allowed that for those reasons, but it still feels wrong. This is where we get into the emotional side. So there's 2 emotional responses that I have found that now I'm gonna be point blank honest. So I've always been probably too open about some of my health struggles, and I've never been able to fully share everything because I give bits and pieces because I get what I can take. These 2 right here, if I could, so in August I gave you a little journey of mine through Genesis. For those that were here, this is like part 2. This is because of that. These 2 sections here changed my life. So I know the work. They take effort, though. This is where loving God with your mind really kicks in. So the first emotional response is practice beauty. Practice beauty. Beauty is often something we don't really think about in our Christian walk. I mean, we see it all around us. We can go and listen to music. We can eat good food. We can watch an artist do their thing. All sorts of different ways of beauty. We can go out. Anybody, like from one of my personal favorites is going out in a boat and sitting in the lake, especially in autumn time, and you got all the leaves changing. Oh, it's so beautiful. And they got this, you got the little mist and stuff rolling off of the lake. Oh, it's beautiful. And some people like to go out and stare at the night sky. Even if you're in the middle of terrible things, you just go out there. Oh, everything's still a dumpster fire, but, hey, I feel peaceful, at least in that moment. That's the power of beauty. Beauty makes us see wholeness and challenges us to go beyond our immediate pain. It points to the creator of all. So what this is doing is saying, if there's beauty, then beauty points to an artist. And if that artist is as grand as this, then it has to be God. So beauty points to God. So to kind of put it in the picture, here's a picture. We're going to see, because a lot of times people think that beauty is subjective, and partly that is true. So we'll do a super quick poll here. Okay. Who finds a cardinal more beautiful than a blue jay? Anybody willing to say they find the cardinal more beautiful than blue jay? Okay. That's what I figured. I was not going to make any baseball jokes. Yeah. Who thinks a blue jay is more beautiful? Anybody? Okay, we got people. Thank you. That's subjective beauty. But let's say cardinals all of a sudden went extinct. Does beauty still exist? Let's say the blue jays also go extinct. Does beauty still exist? Beauty is not subjective. It points to something bigger. So in the moment that a person is doubting and they're struggling, practice beauty. So that means if it's somebody that you know, make them something. If you're awesome at making something, via woodworking or food or whatever, make it for them. If they need somebody to just take them out on a boat and go fishing, do that. If they need somebody to go to walk, do that. Whatever it is that you can do, that you personally can do. So this goes back to loving God with your soul. Whatever you can do that will point God to them and show them, use that and show beauty to them. Practice that beauty. And if it's yourself, one of the biggest signs of depression is when people stop doing the things that they love. They're obsessed about it, and all of a sudden, it's done. They just have no interest in it anymore. To me, that says you've lost beauty. You've lost your idea of beauty. So if that's the case, start doing those things that you found beautiful. Even though life is tough, even though you're struggling with those things, the moment you stop practicing beauty is when everything starts going down. So if you need to go for a walk in the woods to just clear your mind, even just for a little bit, maybe you just need to, I like going to a dog park and watching the dogs run around. That's fun. Maybe you need to just watch a child smile and just enjoy the smile. Whatever that is, practice beauty. And I want to read something. Here's the power of beauty. This is from Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Weird way to pull something out of. But I like this. It's really cool. This is really deep. This is the monster talking. And if, for those who don't know, in Mary Shelley's, the original, the monster is actually really smart. He doesn't just say, fire bad. When I looked around, I saw and heard of none like me. Was I then a monster, a blot upon the earth, from which all men fled, and whom all men disowned? And so currently he's looking at this. He's actually hiding with this family. The family doesn't know he's there, but he watches them through their hut, and he's learning from them, and he's hiding out. So they don't know it, but he's watching. But automatically he's perceiving that there's something different. And it's not that he's a monster, it's that he's different. He's just different. And he continues on a little bit later. I admired virtue and good feelings and loved the gentle manners and amiable qualities of my cottagers, the people he's watching, but I was shut out from intercourse with them. His problem wasn't that he was an 8-foot giant made from a mad scientist. His problem was that he perceived himself to be different than everybody else, and that's what made him a monster. So in the same way, when we lose sight of beauty, we're making a monster of ourselves, or we might be making a monster of God. We're automatically we're putting a disconnect between ourselves and everybody else. So this is why beauty is very important. It restores our togetherness, our community, and it helps us see God in a different way, even in the hard times. Number 2, I'm going to geek out. Show the good shepherd. Show the good shepherd. I'm going to try to do this without getting emotional. I'm just giving you a forewarning. This is one of my, if I could get you to learn anything for just the rest of your life, one thing from my life, if you could do it, this is it. Jesus intentionally faced evil and suffering so that he could lead us through it. Now, last week, Tony touched on Psalm 23. Totally set me up. What I want to take a look at is some of the background of Psalm 23. So Psalm 23:1 says, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. And it goes into verse 2. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. So David was pulling from his shepherd days when he wrote this. And oftentimes it's easy to think, oh, he's got green hills. It's like we imagine either Iowa or Illinois and all the lushness. They're in an arid area, so they only have rain usually like one part of the season, and the rest it's pretty dry. So here's a good picture of what that looks like. And this is probably pretty green. This is probably closer to the rainy season. You see all the dust around there? That's not exactly the most picturesque thing to think, oh, he's leading me through this lovely field, and he's just going to make me prosper, and it's all going to be wonderful. There's a lot of hills, there's a lot of rock, there's a lot of dirt, and they got to live off of that. Verse 3 says, he restores my soul, he leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Do you ever wonder what those paths of righteousness look like? Well, we're about to see. Imagine climbing that. So if you could see up at the top, I don't know if you can quite see, there's a shepherd all the way up the top, and they're all following. And this is actually during a pretty rainy season, or right after that, so there's a lot. But in general, this is more what it looks like, this next picture. You see all the dust rising? And so what the shepherd would do, he would lead his flock from rise to valley, and he would never keep the sheep there too long in one spot because they would eat the vegetation and then leave nothing for the next group that come through or the next time that they come through. So he had to always push them through some terrible terrain, always pushing, but he pushed with a purpose. Okay? John 10:7-9. This is Jesus speaking. Truly, I say to you, I am the door of the sheep. I am the door. If anyone enters by me, he will be saved and will go in and out and find pasture. This is what this means by this next picture. So shepherds back then, this is obviously a modern one, but the job of a shepherd was to move the sheep from one spot to the next, and they'd often go to spots with wells. There were some pools and some water flowing and stuff, but the vast majority of the time, they watered their sheep by going to wells, and then they had to find shelter at night before all the predators would move in, because sheep are not notoriously smart always, and they'll just do their thing, and they get picked off. So they had to push them through these hills, they had to push them through those valleys, and through all this dryness to get them to well, and then what they would do, at night they would you can kind of see the rocks there a little bit. It's just basically a square, maybe a few feet high of just rocks piled up. There's no door. So what the shepherd literally does is become a door. So he'll sit down and block himself so no sheep can come over and nothing comes through him. So when Jesus says, I am the door, that's what he's talking about. So when somebody's in suffering and somebody's questioning God and they're looking for the good shepherd, whatever comes through to you or that person that you're talking to, God has allowed it because he is the door. So what that means is whatever's coming at you, he's not forgotten. That means the redemptive shepherd is there in that situation, even though you can't see it. Now, we as Christians, we don't know why bad things happen. And we're so finite, we're so little, and God is so big. So our answer to that is, I don't know why God's allowing that. But let me maybe pull from those 6 answers that I gave you. Or maybe let me show you some beauty. Maybe let me try to help you out in this problem. Jesus allows things to happen, and we don't always know, but we know that if he's allowing it, if it's happening, then we're not alone. He's faithful. John 10:11 says this, I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. This is where it gets awesome. When David wrote Psalm 23, he was writing it because his son Absalom was trying to start a coup, and he was going to kill David. So what did David do? He was smart. He left Jerusalem. So he fled Jerusalem. So he went east, and he crossed the Kidron Valley, which is just east of Jerusalem, just right outside of it. He crossed that. He went up the Mount of Olives, and then he paused, took a look. There's Jerusalem, and he went out into the wilderness. He went out into the desert, and then he took shelter there. On the last night of Jesus' free life, he similarly left the city. He left it through the southeast gate, same one probably that David did. Jesus crossed the Kidron Valley, and what's significant about the Kidron Valley is that it's the valley that in the Old Testament, when Israel had their idols going and they were committing all sorts of crazy things, this is where the idols went to die. They burned the idols in this valley right here. So this is basically like a valley of just murkiness, okay? So this is where this is. So you have Jesus, the light of the world, the creator of everything, the King of Kings, Lord of Lords, crossing this murkiness. And what does he do? He goes up the Mount of Olives, stops, looks at Jerusalem, stays in the Garden of Gethsemane. So you see the very similar patterns. So David was foreshadowing in a way. So he stopped at the Garden of Gethsemane, and we know that he had so much anxiety, so much struggle with here, that blood came like sweat out of his pores. It's a real medical condition. So he had so much anxiety, and he said, God, take this away from me. He didn't want to do this in one part. But he also said, not my will, but yours be done. So instead of being like David, where David took off into the wilderness, Jesus could have taken off in the wilderness, but he stayed, which is crazy. He's not only stayed, but then he took on the most torturous next few days that we know in history, and he died for us. He gave up, he willingly gave it up so that we could live. So when Jesus says, I am the door, that door has been through it all. He has seen it, he has done it, it's been experienced to him, so he's not allowing you anything that he cannot handle. Jesus went and took all the wrongs, all the bad things. He took all those moments of people, for those that carry the burden that have been raped or sexually assaulted or mentally abused, physically abused. He took all the pain of watching your parents go through Alzheimer's and all these difficult situations. He took that and he died for it. That doesn't make it always easier for us, but that means that the guy that says that he's going to lead us through the valleys, that he's going to lead us to the streams, he knows exactly what to do, and he's powerful. So while we don't always have the right answers, or we don't, this is where the emotional side really hits, is you need to show the people, and maybe even to yourself, this is the good shepherd, that he was willing to die for me, that he was willing to face down everything so everything could be made right through him. Now, I found great comfort in this, just simply because it's hard to reconcile, like, why bad things happen. And I pull from all 6 of those previous. So what I just talked about was the incarnational aspect of that number 6 response. So I challenge you to push your mind. Love God not just with your heart, with your soul, but also with your mind, and really develop some thoughts. So if you're in this room right now and you're struggling and you don't know how to answer the question, I hope maybe some of this will help you out. Take this home and look at it more. But if you're also dealing with somebody, we're approaching Thanksgiving and Christmas, which is always a time of awkward conversations. Maybe this will help you out a little bit. But I just want to encourage you that you're not always going to have the answers. You might not be able to say the things that you want to say, or sometimes you just walk into situations you don't know what to make of it. Draw from these. But beyond that, I hope that you show beauty, practice that beauty for one another, and may your life show that there is a good shepherd. I'm going to close this in prayer. Papa, my shepherd, I thank you for my family here. I thank you that you're the door, that even in the midst of struggles and pains and difficulties, whatever comes at us is because you're allowing it, because you can overcome it. There's bigger purposes in it. Even if we don't understand it, we can't understand it. Father, help us to accept your love in those moments, and help us to give that love. Help us to practice beauty. Help us to show others the good shepherd. Help us to speak your truth into whatever situation it is, even if we just have to just make somebody cookies and just sit with somebody and we don't say much. Help us to have those eyes and ears. And I pray for healing for those that are in this room, Father. I pray that they would experience that. If there's any doubts that are just coming over people, may they find you. Father, as a personal, may they find you like I did. There's such a depth, even in the worst. And it's scary, but it's beautiful. So I thank you, Father, for this. I thank you again for my family. I ask that you just please bless our day. In your name, amen.